Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Friday, the 5th of January 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We will begin with the right to self-determination day for Kashmiris in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that is being observed throughout the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir as well as Azad Jammu and Kashmir as well. Now, also Kashmiris all across the world are observing the 75th anniversary of the resolution, because it was on this very day that a resolution was passed by the United Nations Commission for India and Pakistan, providing that the Jammu and Kashmir dispute be decided through the democratic method of a free and impartial plebiscite under the US auspices. This said, 75 years have passed by and we are still to see an implementation of that resolution, and it is for this very specific reason that the Kashmiris all across the world, including in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, all across Pakistan and in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, have observed this day as the right to self-determination day. We will be highlighting different aspects of the right to self-determination for the people of IIOJK and what has been done so far. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Israel-Palestine conflict that has now entered its 91st day today. At least 22,600 people, ladies and gentlemen, have been killed in Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip since October 7th, and a total of 57,910 people have been wounded because of the barbaric attitudes of the Israeli forces that is not stopping even as we speak, because refugee camps, other places in Gaza and the West Bank are now being targeted in a continuous manner. 162 deaths over the past 24 hours. Diplomatic efforts, some are happening, but whether they will be fruitful or not is something that we will only see in due time. This is going to be our second story. Then we are going to talk about North Korea, that has broken decades of policy and is moving to effectively redefine South Korea as an enemy state that could justify the use of nuclear weapons against Seoul in a future war. They have also, of course, launched a barricade of missiles and other such tactics on the borders as well. This is the cause of huge concern. The North Korean government has time and again issued statements against South Korea and that they are going to arm themselves and they are going to build a new nuclear weapon and so on and so forth, but never has it gone to this level. What is the ultimate intention? We'll try to understand this in our this story of ours. Then a video of a powerful speech that was delivered by a member of the parliament in New Zealand has gone viral on social media. You can see that video, in the parallel window that is just there. Hannah Rahiti Maipi Clark is just 21 years old and is New Zealand's youngest member of parliament in 170 years. She was elected to parliament in October last year, and here she is, giving her statement in her native language. And that is a Maori. What a beautiful way not only to represent your culture, your people, but also to say, I'm here to stay. Finally, we are going to talk about the United States that will soon launch its first spacecraft to attempt a soft lunar landing since the Apollo era. This is going to be a historic collaboration between the public sector and the private sector, but apparently not everyone is celebrating, because the Navajo Nation, America's largest indigenous tribe, has raised concerns over the presence of human cremated remains on the lander vehicle called the mission, a desecration of the moon, which holds a sacred place in their culture. Will that issue be resolved as well? Only time will tell. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the right to self-determination day for the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Today is the 75th anniversary of that very day when the resolution had been passed by the United Nations that granted the people of the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir the right to self-determination, and the decision through a democratic method of a free and impartial plebiscite. We are yet to see that day. Nevertheless, this day is observed every year by Kashmiris all across the world. We've been joined by Agha Iqrar Haroon. He is a senior analyst in the studios. Agha sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. 5th of January 1949, a very important day. The United Nations Security Council passes a resolution that supports the Kashmiris' right to decide their future by themselves under a UN-sponsored plebiscite. We are in 2023. 5th of January again, 75 years have passed, yes. Nothing has happened. Why is that?
Although it was it was through the Security Council, it has to be followed, but nobody did. As you mentioned, why? Because of many reasons. First of all, Pakistan and India had gone almost 3 wars on particular this issue, and these wars complicated things gravely. There is no doubt. India always you can say inject war on Pakistan because India wanted to make this dispute a dispute of land, instead a dispute of indigenous people who has right for self-determination. After 1965 war, India portrayed Kashmir issue as a land dispute between Pakistan and India, and unfortunately we couldn't manage ours, you can say our side of narrative, and we were also, you can say, somehow or other impressed by this land dispute issue. We couldn't think that this would lead where Kashmiris would be a second you can say issue, and the land would be the first issue. This happened with Kashmir cause, but unfortunately all, you can say, international powers including the United Nations kept silent over this issue. If you remember, it was India that went to United Nations Security Council for this resolution. So it is like many disputes which are still waiting for their resolve. And Omar, there is only one issue that is resolved, that was also kept as a resolution, full resolution in United Nations, that was Nagorno-Karabakh. And we have seen this was decided by the war, a 41-day war, and then Azerbaijan, who is the, you can say, legitimate owner of the land, it captured the land, it reclaimed the land. So that indicated, and that left a message to everybody, disputes cannot be resolved through resolutions. They would never, because powerful never give you a space.
But you know, you say disputes can never be resolved through resolutions, but at the end of the day, even when there is war, the people have to sit down on a table and decide the fate of conflicts. Isn't it, hasn't it happened in the past as well, that there have been wars, but at the end of the wars there have been, you know, sittings on the table, and things have been realized through different resolutions or concrete discussions. Can't that be done this time after 75 years of a resolution that has been passed by United Nations Security Council? We are not talking of the United Nations General Assembly.
We are talking about the Security Council only,
you know, which includes the members that can veto any resolution. It was not vetoed then. Then why is it that a resolution that was not vetoed 75 years back can still not be implemented?
Because India is not ready to listen anybody, and India has, you can say, somehow or other we have to accept it, that its economic hegemony on West is very strong. So it's a matter of trade and you can say economy. You cannot de-link economy and trade and politics. India emerged as a stronger economy in the region, so West and I mean whole West is listening India much better than they could listen ourselves.
All right.
Yeah, this is a and you know, this Kashmiri people, they are they have a very strong diaspora in particularly in Europe. They had been raising this issue almost every passing day, but without any tangible results. Even if you remember, there are, if I am not wrong, 4 resolutions in European Parliament against India, all died out without any results.
All right.
So these are the realities, Umar. You can say this is very, it could be very you can say a harsh statement to mention again. I have seen in my age only one dispute is resolved, and that is resolved by the power, by the war, 41-day war in Nagorno-Karabakh, and I had been there. I saw with myself. They had been waiting. They had been waiting for 30 years. There were 4 resolutions and 1 resolution. The first resolution was actually submitted and tabled by Pakistan and Turkey. So they waited for 30 years. Then they launched a massive attack on Armenia and reclaimed their life.
All right. Now, the situation, let's come to the present, and the situation in Indian legally occupied Jammu and Kashmir has worsened since the 5th of August 2019, when the Narendra Modi-led fascist government revoked the special status of the territory, and now it has been reinforced by the decision of the Supreme Court of India. Genocide Watch has also rung the warning bell since a very, very long time, and we've discussed that in many shows in the past as well. In this scenario, what is the responsibility of India? What is the responsibility of the powers that be in the world, the developed world, as far as the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir issue is concerned?
India, the foremost responsibility of India was to go for a plebiscite, actually, according to the resolution. It never done. And now, you know what happened this particular 370 case? In 2016, a woman went to Delhi High Court, and she submitted an application that I am a Hindu from Delhi, I am not Kashmiri, my husband is Kashmiri, I married a Kashmiri person, I have resources, I want to sell my property in Delhi and I want to buy a property on my name in Indian occupied Kashmir. This started from here, it was all planned, and then Delhi High Court raised these questions, yes, she had a right. This was the first time people like me or many other raised arms, things are going to be somewhere else. But since Pakistan before August 2019, we never accepted 370. So we were in, you can say, in a doldrum, what to decide, what not to decide. And we decided very late. Otherwise, there should have been a hue and cry, strong hue and cry from Pakistan, because Pakistan is a partner in this resolution.
Of course.
We are the victim. So, somehow or other, Pakistan was very late to respond to this 370 issue, and then August 5th came. Everybody knew well before time it is going to be done. We didn't move even the United Nations. We could have moved to the United Nations under that resolution. How can India make this, can withdraw the 370 and make the part of Indian occupied Kashmir as a union state? So we didn't go, because by that time we were thinking, since we didn't believe, we never accepted 370, so we were shy to move. And then you have seen whatever has been done after August, because everybody knew it is going to be changed the demography of Indian occupied Kashmir, it is going to be changed the fate of the Indian occupied Kashmir, it is going to be change the future of the Indian occupied Kashmir. Now more than 35% up to now, the non-Kashmiris had already bought lands in Indian occupied Kashmir. Even some international firms had been granted the right for buying for tourism. So this all plebiscite based on demographic status, the vote. If they would go for a vote after 5 years, after you can say settling 90% of non-Kashmiris, definitely they would go vote for India, not for Pakistan.
Now, speaking of the Kashmir leaders whose resolve has not broken despite the atrocities, the barbarities of the Indian forces and the Indian government, we know the thousands of Kashmiris who are languishing in Indian jails, that include APSC Chairman Musarrat Alam Bhatt, Shabir Ahmed Shah, Muhammad Yasin Malik, Asya Andrabi, Naeem Ahmed Khan. Their voices are being muted, along with the voices of all the other sane elements inside of India and in the Indian held valley, who are trying to portray what is actually happening in the Indian held valley. Till which time is this going to go on? What, in your point, is the tipping, in your point of view, is a tipping point? Because, you can only press anything to a certain extent, then it rebounds.
Yes.
When will that rebound in your point of view?
It is almost there. Just India is there with more than 1.5 million forces. Just imagine if they withdraw forces for 1 week, you will see what will the uprise from Kashmiri. Kashmiri are a very strong nation. We must salute them. India has actually ruthlessly failed to take away the desire of an independent state from them. Every Kashmiri, despite or irrespective of the, you can say, caste, creed, even Hindu Kashmiris, even Pandits, they are still trying, they still want to get their own independent Kashmir. So this is, the India has totally failed. Students, girls, children, women, old aged person. India used rape as a tool, as a brutal tool. And you know, every woman, every girl knows it, that they can use the rape as a tool. Even then, have you not seen the school girls are throwing pebbles and stones on Indian forces? So they have so their desire for an independence is so strong. India will never ever you can say successful to snub that. The moment they will get chance, unfortunately, the problem lies with the entire world. They are not getting any support from anybody. This is the issue. If they can get support, you will see the situation would be totally different. And I remember when there was cases of abusing and haircutting of Muslim girls. That time, if I am not wrong, Mahmouda Mufti was the so-called puppet, the chief minister. Even she raised alarm, and that was the first time she had a direct contradiction with the so-called center of India.
You know, if you look at just the atrocities, the pellet gun injuries, the rapes, the incarcerations, the killings, the muting of the voices, the cutting of their value from social media. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And of course, today is an important day. We come back to the importance of the day and the fact that protests were held all across the world by the Kashmiri diaspora. In Pakistan also, there were protests and rallies that were held all day long. How important, in your point of view, is Pakistan's moral, diplomatic and political support to the Kashmir cause?
Whatever Pakistan could do, Pakistan is doing. We need to keep pressure on international forums. We need to keep pressure on the United Nations to resolve its own resolution. But there is one suggestion, if you allow me to, I can share with you. We have seen about the Khalistan movement. It was in 1984, then they did a genocide against Sikhs. Now, for the last 3 years,
Blue Star.
Yeah, Operation Blue Star, Bhindranwala. And for the last 3 years, now they are, you can say, holding referendums all over the world for Khalistan. Kashmiri diaspora is very strong all over the world. They should also go for referendums like Sikhs. They have never thought about that. This could be, just imagine, this series of referendum has pushed India to diplomatically to a wall. What happened in Canada, even they had to send people to kill some,
and in the US as well.
In the US.
That was yes, but of course that they also tried there.
Yes. So, Kashmiris who live in at least in the Western world, they should go to hold referendums. And I think 100% Kashmiris, irrespective, even I'm again telling you, it is again is a problem. First, unfortunately, it was portrayed just a, you can say, land dispute. Then it was somehow or other portrayed by India maybe as a religious dispute. But it is an indigenous, is a dispute, it's not a dispute, it is a basically desire of an indigenous nation, people, indigenous people to have their own land.
Exactly. And so, to do whatever they want to do with the place that they live in, to have access to whatever they want to do, because it is their right as enshrined by the United Nations resolutions.
Exactly. And if you remember, particularly in England, particularly in London, there are even Pandit Hindu who raised, who stood with Muslims for an independent Kashmir. So they should go for referendum, and when they will hold referendum, it will, I think, I believe it, it will push more pressure, actually moral pressure only. People can only put moral pressure, otherwise they are the state decide themselves. But United Nations, somehow or other you can not influence, but you can just send a reminder to United Nations, sir, there are resolutions for us.
Well, that's interesting you talk about the United Nations. How, in your point of view, because we see every time that Pakistan addresses the United Nations General Assembly, the issue of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir comes up, and Pakistan highlights that and the atrocities that are being committed on the people in that disputed area. How, in your point of view, under these circumstances can Pakistan exert the right pressure for this cause internationally, including at the United Nations, in your point of view, because we've done whatever we could?
Yeah. I think Pakistan should again send a letter to United Nations after this 75 years, I think so. So Pakistan should remind United Nations there are some resolutions who are waiting for their decision. Pakistan is ready to take, conduct plebiscite in, you can Azad Kashmir. Even it is Azad Kashmir. This is, this is a Kashmir which was basically, you can say, fought by the Kashmiris, and they got hold of it from the Indian occupation. And this is Azad Kashmir. Even then, Pakistan would and can, you can say, request Kashmiris to go for a plebiscite. At the same time, when India is taking a conducting a plebiscite over there, Pakistan should go again. Look, Omar, some 2-point formula, some 4-point formulas, they came in the scene in early 2000, and that created more problem for the Kashmiris. Pakistan is very clear now, with the blessing of God. This you can say government is very clear. The previous government, of PDM was also very clear that India and Pakistan both must resolve Kashmir issue through the plebiscite.
But the fact is that India says it's a unilateral issue. It's their internal matter. It's not.
It is not. It is not. There is a resolution, and even Indian Supreme Court cannot take any decision just because of two reasons, not one. First of all, it is a matter of the United Nations, under the consideration of the United Nations. So Indian Supreme Court cannot take any decision. And more, very important point, which I read in 2 articles in Indian writer. This 370 was actually a part of, not the operative part of the Indian constitution. No. Like for the Pakistan constitution have 2 parts. One is the resolution, the Iqrar of Pakistan. This cannot be changed. Pakistan is a Muslim country. No parliament in Pakistan can change this part of constitution, and there is the operative part.
Of course.
This first part is called the constitutional part. So this particularly this 70 is in the constitutional part of the Indian constitution. Even no their Supreme Court or even not their parliament can change it.
All right. So I look forward, Agha, Iqrar, Haroon, for your next article to include this aspect of the Article 370, so that can be highlighted by eminent journalists such as yourself. Thank you very much, Agha, Iqrar, Haroon, Sahab, who have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important day, that is the Right to Self-Determination Day for Kashmiris in the Indian Hell Valley. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is the 75th anniversary of that, but unfortunately 75 years have passed and we still don't see resolution of those those United Nations resolutions that concern Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and their right to self-determination. Our second story concerns day 91 of the Israel-Palestine conflict, and as far as the latest figures are concerned, 22,600 people have been killed and 57,910 people have been injured. We've been joined by G.R. Baloch, former ambassador and foreign affairs expert. Baloch Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. It's a pleasure to have you here. Baloch Sahab, if you look at the casualties as far as Palestine is concerned, when you look at the numbers, just the numbers, 22,600 over, and I think that number must have been surpassed by now. We must be nearing 23,000. I fail to understand, as a human being, as a part of the global world, where there are rules and regulations, where there are human rights, as to how this can be how we can let this happen on a daily basis, on an hourly basis.
Yeah, exactly. The problem is that the world has come to a real critical situation where I would say that the questions are being raised that are we living in a world which really, even nominally, is being run what is called rule of law? Certainly not, at least not in that part of the world, what is Palestine, which is historical people with their existence dating back to hundreds and thousands of years back. Now, I think what is being done, in my view, is that the imperial project of Israel as a supplant on the Middle East, as an imperial Western dominance for the purpose of Western dominance in the Middle East, which is more very, very strategically important, is now getting into another stage of completely inhalating the very existence of Palestinians. So I think we are here now past beyond the number of people, unfortunately, killed by the Israelis, are wounded by them, or the houses demolished and infrastructure completely destroyed. Actually, now I think Gaza, as we see in the television screen, is what Netanyahu said, that I will completely turn into a desert. So I think they are planning. In fact, now there are calls, as you know and I know, that they want to remove this 2.5 million Palestinians out of Gaza and completely take away the land that they want and bring in the settlers there. In fact, their ministers have made statements to that effect.
But there have been a lot of counter statements made by important countries such as UAE, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and so many others who have raised objections to these comments.
Correct. There is no doubt that their statements are being made. Even some EU countries have done that. But I think what is happening is that unless and until the US, which is unfortunately completely overtaken by the Israeli lobby, for which I think there's a huge literature available that we must see that how Israeli lobby controls the Senate, how it controls, because it finances, how it controls the Congress, the US Congress, and how it controls the international media. So I think what is happening is that unless at this point of time, US being the great power, the global power, which has influence, has taken a position which is exactly what Israel is saying. Despite the fact that we do listen some platitudes by their senior officials, but yet when we see, it's very difficult to digest. I think we should be forthright in saying that when a country's Secretary for Foreign Affairs or Secretary of State sits in the war cabinet, and the next day or the same hour there's a carpet bombing of the Palestinians. What does that mean? What does it show? That whether they really are concerned about the human life there of the Palestinians, or only they say, please reduce the casualties. Please reduce
Baloch Sahab, I'd like to interrupt you here because you were talking about the US Secretary of State. I'd like to refer to his visit to the Middle East that is happening as we speak. Anthony Blinken is going to travel to the Middle East, to Israel, to Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, and the occupied West Bank. As far as an official release concerning this visit is concerned, I'd just like to highlight 3-4 important points that have been said by the US State Department press release. It says he will be discussing the protection of civilian lives in the occupied West Bank, Gaza and Israel. He will be talking about freeing the remaining captives in Gaza, getting more aid into Gaza, ensuring Palestinians in Gaza are not forcibly displaced, deterring attacks in the Red Sea, reducing tensions at the Israel-Lebanon border, and steps toward a future Palestinian state. These are all important points on paper, but will they actually be implemented?
No, I think as long as these hardliners are in power in Israel, you see this war cabinet, and even Netanyahu now, who heads a ultra-nationalist government, which does not believe in the existence of Palestinians as the residents of of Palestine. In fact, they believe in the greater Israel. They are translating it, and they have said it many times. So I think we are at a very, very difficult situation. Yes, Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken, this is his 4th time in these 2 months, no doubt. But what difference it does make unless they change their policy, unless they pressurize Israel, because they are the only ones who can really pressurize Israel. So I think it seems that the world watches helplessly in fact, shamelessly, I would say, I'm sorry to be emotional, but really there's no way for me and there's no other option for me to say this word, that we all, the entire world shamelessly watches on the screens live annihilation of a civilization, annihilation of people who have existed in that, and they are being deprived of it. So what is, if this is not ethnic cleansing, what is ethnic cleansing?
This is genocide. This is genocide, plain and
genocide?
simple, Jia Baloch sahab. This is genocide. This was what I was trying to say. You talked about Israel. I'd like to refer to, the Israeli defense minister who has unveiled a plan for post-crisis Gaza. He says operations in southern Gaza, which have included the bombing of refugee camps, are previously declared civilian safe zones, is going to continue. What's your take?
Yeah, exactly. So they basically are broadening the battle from Gaza to West Bank to South Lebanon. I will not be surprised that after the killing of the Hamas leader in Lebanon, Israel would remain quiet there. So I think essentially they are now going into the second stage. Second stage means much more technology, a futuristic war that we will see, where they'll be supposedly targeting leaders, soldiers, but they will be basically bombing civilians. They will be bombing homes. They will be bombing maybe spaces where the civilians live, are the refugee camps, the way they have done it with 2 or 3 refugee camps.
But Jia Baloch sahab, you talk about, bombing civilians. You talk about bombing civilians, Jia Baloch sahab. You remember a lot of humanitarian organizations who are working in Palestine had raised UN cry that they had given their GPS coordinates to the Israeli forces and the Israeli government, despite that they were bombarded deliberately, despite the fact that the Israelis knew exactly who was there.
Yeah, indeed. UNHCR had given the coordinates of the schools that were being run by them and where people did take refuge because there was no other way. So essentially, unless the world, and especially the Muslim world, I would underline again, the Muslim world, the Arab world, moves ahead of the statements. They make tangible condition that here we are now. I think as analysts, as people, we are not in the government, of course, but I think I, as a person who has served in the Middle East, seen the Palestinians actually from a very close quarter while being in Syria, I think there's the time now for the Muslim world to say that enough is enough. Now, how to translate that enough is enough is that they should come up with some kind of plan to penalize Israel for what it is doing.
I totally agree with you on that.
That could be like they could be boycott of the products that they come in from Israel. They could be recall of the.
A lot of measures could be taken in that regard, Jia Baloch sahab, of course, and I hope that those measures are taken. Thank you so very much, Jia Baloch sahab, former Ambassador sahab, to have joined us, to have talked to us about day 91 of the conflict between Israel and Palestine as we speak. Let's talk about the latest developments as far as that is concerned. Heavy bombardments reported near Deir el-Balah, including at the Nuseirat, Al-Mazahi and Burej refugee camps as Israeli forces residents to evacuate to the south. Dr. Salma Malik, who is a foreign affairs expert, joins us online. Dr. Salma, long time, welcome to Newsroom. I hope we'll see you in the studios pretty soon. I'd like to understand the whole situation vis-a-vis the health crisis, the humanitarian crisis that is evolving in Palestine or has already evolved in Palestine. An urgent appeal has been made for fuel, water, sanitation and hygiene services for the enclave's 1.9 million displaced people, 40% of whom face the risk of famine.
Yes.
What needs to be done? How can the neighboring countries, how can the EU, the United Nations and other important stakeholders intervene?
Thank you so much, Omar, for having me. My apologies, I'm under the weather a little bit. That's why I could not come to the studio. The thing that you have pointed out is extremely important. When we look at conflict, we usually look at the guns and the bullets and people getting killed. The biggest side of conflict today is what you need to understand, the side effects. the point that you have just mentioned, disease, famine, people dying on the road, people not having access to sanitation, and so many other issues that need to be catered to. The only way and why the Israelis are making this situation all the more worse is so that the living space for the Palestinians becomes so uninhabitable that they are then pushed to leave their own space. And this is exactly what they require the Palestinians to do. And the Palestinians, despite all this hardship and this inhuman way of living, are staying in their ancestral homeland because this is their homeland. And the minute they start exodus from this area, that is the victory of the Israelis, and that's exactly what they require. Now, what the neighbors and international actors do is that they try and open as wide corridors of humanitarian assistance, and the ICRC and other such organizations that create enabling environment for people to live in those spaces themselves rather than being made to leave their own homeland. Sorry, Omar, you were saying something.
Yes, I was saying that, you were talking about the aid. The Palestinian Red Crescent itself said it's being targeted by the Israeli forces. Yes. Other humanitarian agencies have also been targeted by the Israeli forces. How can we even bring aid to the people in need at all the refugee camps when those who are bringing the aid are being targeted upon? I'd like to now refer to something else. I'd like to understand your point of view, and that is the number game as far as the deaths are concerned in the occupied West Bank. 326 now is the latest casualty figure as far as the West Bank is concerned. Far more than 5,000 have been arrested, many of whom are held without any charge or trial. Yes. What is happening now is that the International Court of Justice has confirmed that it is going to hold public hearings at The Hague on the 11th and the 12th of this very month regarding South Africa's case against Israel. Will justice prevail?
No, I don't think so. It will just initiate a new story. But would that actually bring a stop or a ceasefire to Israeli inhuman actions? I doubt. When there was this limited window of ceasefire that had happened, we had all hoped against hope that this would open a greater space for peace and stability. And this did not happen. Israel has initiated since October 7th all of this for a particular purpose with a very strong mandate and an agenda in mind. And I'm still in the net. Palestinian indigenous spaces, Israel is not going to sit at rest. And we have also seen the ICJ and other international courts, what type of justice has already been brought through several such genocidal cases. So the verdict remains out. It won't really bring more relief to the Palestinians as you are wishing or as any one of us could wish. So unfortunately,
all right, Dr. Salma, I'd like to also refer to the extent of the barbarities of the Israeli forces, because yes. As far as the United Nations report is concerned, a UNICEF report, that nearly a quarter of injuries that have happened in Palestine are that of children. We have heard reports of more than 1,000 children who have undergone leg amputations. The yes. mere thought of it brings jitters yes. in your heart and in your mind. What is the fate of the new generation in Palestine if this continues?
And they're often children. So you have a crippled future generation of Palestinians who would be traumatized by not only conflict, but the loss of their families as well as loss of their limbs. And what kind of a future life they would have is anyone's guess. Although life in future is going to be much more technically better for many of us than it is now, and technology can provide them with a lot of compensation, but that does not compensate for the natural loss that they have faced today. And it also depends on what type of a future stability they face. There are also very strong rumors that these people are being pushed towards Congo, a site of a genocide 20 plus years back by itself, which is such a ironic joke. It's a tragic, macabre kind of a joke these are playing. Americans and other countries are actually helping them, or I would rather actually say the international community is hand in gloves helping Israel do what it's doing by not pushing the humanitarian case very stronger down their throat. I understand that the international organizations such as the Red Crescent, country chapters, international chapters, Journalists Without Borders, etc., they have all been targeted because that's what Israel aims. But if by major powers, they press upon Israel, they sanction them, they do not allow Israel to do what Israel is doing, it's going to stop. It is not such a beast that it cannot stop. That beast also has its chain in someone else's hand. And that someone else's hand is allowing this beast to run its course. So unless and until the major powers press upon Israel to stop this barbaric activity, Israel is just going to do whatever it feels like doing. And of course, future Palestine is a very unfortunate, traumatized, crippled, orphan Palestine. And this is what we are going to face in another 10 to 20 years.
I mean, this is such a sad state of affairs, Dr. Salma Malik, and I can only say that. And, you know, you are setting an example. And tomorrow, when the same example will be upon you, and I'm talking of those states who are, you know, siding with Israel, I'd like to see how they will react if the same is happening to them one day. And I think, you know, karma has very strange ways of dealing with situations. And I really wish that, you know, people understand before it's way too late for them.
One could only hope and pray that nothing such as what is happening to the Palestinians today happens to anyone. But I couldn't agree more with you, and I pray and I really hope that we live to see the future when justice is delivered to the Palestinians, to the brave Palestinians.
I mean, I really hope that this happens sooner than later. Thank you very much, Dr. Salma Malik, to have joined us, foreign affairs expert Dr. Salma Malik, also joining us to talk about the Israeli-Palestine conflict that has ended its 91st day. No comments there. I can't say anymore because, you know, when you look at what is happening in Palestine, you fall short of words. Let's come to our last three stories, ladies and gentlemen, and the first concerns North and South Korean relations. Now, North Korea is shaking up the way it's handling relations with South Korea, enacting changing to policy and government organizations that is going to effectively treat the South as a separate enemy state. These moves are breaking decades of policy, and it can have North Korea's foreign ministry taking over relations with the South potentially help justify the use of nuclear weapons against Seoul in a future war. This is being said by many leading analysts. Since the 1950-53 Korean War that ended in a stalemate, both nations have had policies that treat each other differently than other countries. But this latest development that has occurred seems to not go or not bold in the right direction. What is going to happen? Because we also heard of reports of North Korea firing artillery at sea against the South Korean military, and Seoul has also conducted live firing drills after North shot this artillery on them. In this whole scenario where we are seeing so many conflicts across the world, can the world afford another conflict? That is a question I pass on to my viewers. Secondly, let's talk about the New Zealand's parliament, ladies and gentlemen, and the video of a powerful speech that was delivered by a member of the parliament in New Zealand that has gone viral. Let's have a look at it. With a strong and evocative visual that not only shows the member of the parliament in New Zealand siding with her people, but also showing that she has a presence, and so do her people. Finally, the United Launch Alliance and Pittsburgh-based Astrobiotech are about to make history. On the 8th of January, a ULA rocket will send Astrobiotech's Peregrine lander towards the moon. If it does land successfully, the Peregrine will become the first private lander ever to reach the lunar surface. This mission will also mark the debut of the ULA's new Vulcan Centaur rocket. This is, of course, a collaboration between the public and the private sector, with NASA collaborating. But also tucked away on the mission's manifest are sets of human DNA and remains which are going up on memorial space flights offered by two different companies, Celestis and Elysium Space. There is a huge objection as far as the human remains are concerned, because the president of the Navajo Nation, Bu Ngren, has filed a formal objection with NASA and the US Department of Transportation over what he calls an act of desecration. He says, and I quote, "It is crucial to emphasize that the moon holds a sacred position in many indigenous cultures, including ours." And he said that the act of depositing human remains and other materials which could be perceived as discards in any other location on the moon is tantamount to desecration of this sacred space. Whether NASA and of course the other parties will listen to this leader is another story altogether, but nevertheless, let's hope a better sense prevails on all the different sectors that are involved in it. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. Today is Friday, so of course we have a long weekend ahead. We'll see you inshallah on Monday with news story segments that pertain to you, us and Pakistan. Stay safe and have a great weekend. Allah Hafiz.